Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me here. My pleasure to be here. I just have a disclaimer before the class. If you have no problems with your kids, then this may not be the class for you. If your kids do their homework on time, if they have straight A's, the whole package, I have nothing to teach you. And if you are like me, that it's not exactly the case, then we may have something we want to discuss. So, first as an introduction to this, there was once a rabbi, an imam, and a priest. And they're discussing their, several techniques, how to get to talk to people, how their sermons go, and how to preach to congregants. And they say, it's very easy to talk to people, they're receptive, they're intellectual. Let's try with animals. So they say the drill is going to be, we're going to go talk to a bear, and let's see the reaction. If you could convince the bear to join. Okay? So they go, they say, we'll meet here in 24 hours. 24 hours later, the imam comes with a cast, on his left side. The priest comes with a cast on the leg, and the rabbi doesn't show up. So the imam talks to the priest and says, the priest, what happened to you? He says, no, what happened to you? Tell me your experience. So the imam says, well, I started talking to him about Muhammad, etc. It didn't go too well. He got a little nervous, and he slapped me on the side, and look, it was very strong. I couldn't make it. He says to the priest, what about you? He said, no, by us, the way it works is that in Christianity, you have to first baptize. To baptize, you need water. The bear, they don't really like the water. So when I threw the water at him, he got really upset. He kicked me in the leg and I ended up in the hospital. Who is the rabbi? They're looking for the rabbi. They can't find the rabbi. They call the police. They find out the rabbi is in the hospital. He's in a bad shape. They find the rabbi in the hospital. They go visit the rabbi. And they see he has a cast from the head all the way to the bottom. He's in a very bad shape. He has the eyes and the mouth. He could barely exchange some words. And they ask him what happened. He says, by us, by you start with the water. By us, we start with circumcision. So it didn't go too well. And, ladies, the system in our days is very different than before. We can't start with circumcision. We cannot start with an approach that is too strong. When we grew up, it was different. Today, things, according to Rav Nefesh HaChaim, Rav Chaim Volozhin, the world goes always more ahava, more love, more tact, more slow, more shallow, more sweet. So we have to adjust to these new realities, and it's really, really important. Just before I really start, Esti, till what time do we have? No, I don't like that. You never say this to a rabbi.
I know you. You're not a regular rabbi.
Ay. What is that supposed to mean? Okay. All right, so stop me when you want. All right? So I just want to do a little study with you of something that is kind of unexpected. You have always a leadership that is given from one to another. Abraham gave the leadership to Yitzchak. We know that Yitzchak, Ishmael, they had some misunderstandings there. Ishmael thinking until this very day, that he was the one chosen by Abraham. That's why we have so many conflicts with the Arabs. But we believe our Torah that says that it was given to Yitzchak. Ki beYitzchak ikare lechazara. I'm going to call my zera, my descendants, through you, Yitzchak. And then Yitzchak passes it again to Yaakov. Again, there's conflict between Esav and Yaakov. Who is going to get the beracha? That beracha, that blessing, is not just a blessing. Or like the Torah says, is there only one beracha? Can't you give another beracha? Why make a big deal out of it? We know that this beracha is more than just a blessing. This beracha is really giving the leadership to the next one, appointing the next leader. And that's what happens. Yitzchak chooses Yaakov, forced to choose Yaakov, and Yaakov now is the appointed leader for the Klal Yisrael. And now, history repeats itself. It's Yaakov's deathbed, and he has to choose who is going to be the leader. But now it's much more complicated than before, because beforehand, there was only always a good guy and a bad guy, or a very good guy and a less great guy. But now he has 12 sons, and apparently they're all good. So how do you choose? Who is going to be the leader? So we're not surprised. Yaakov loved Rachel more than Leah. So he's probably going to look for a leader that comes from Rachel. So we're not surprised when you read the words that he uses to choose the next leader. He hints words that were given to him. V'yiten lecha Elohim mital hashamayim. All the blessings that come from heaven, he's giving them to who? None other than Yosef. Yosef for him is everything. You know, it's his not the youngest, but the firstborn of his beloved wife, Rachel. We know he cherishes Yosef. He makes differences between Yosef and his brothers. Very bad idea, but he did. And now it's time to choose. So he gives a beracha that is much longer than to all the other brothers. There's another point to Yosef, is that Yosef is a born leader. He is really the one who is the most successful right now. He's the leader of Egypt. How did he make it? From being the smallest to being the biggest. So naturally we would expect Yosef to be the leader of the Klal Yisrael forever. He gives him beracha, blessings of the deep that couches beneath, the blessing of my father, are mighty beyond the blessings of my ancestors. He's hinting, these are the words that he's giving. Birkat, the blessing of my father. He's hinting to the beracha that I got now, I'm giving it to you. I'm appointing you to be the next leader. But we know history. And it doesn't work. What becomes of Yosef? Anybody from Yosef here? We don't know. We don't know. God disapproves. Hashem doesn't agree with that. And here points someone else, probably the least expected of the 12 brothers to be the Melech Israel, to be the king of Israel. And you know, of course, it's Yehuda. Yehuda is going to be starting the dynasty of David HaMelech, who will be the king, Shlomo, his children, and even till the Mashiach. Mashiach comes from David HaMelech, who comes from Yehuda. What a bad choice. Out of all the brothers, we really don't know much about the brothers. We know a story about Shimon and Levi, the troublemakers. They destroy a whole city. Yaakov is not very happy with them. Yosef is the perfect guy. He's made it anywhere he went. He's very graceful, very charming. Wherever he goes, they love him. He made it super far, what nobody could do. Viceroy of Egypt, the strongest nation on earth at the time. But Yehuda, what do we know of Yehuda that would say, oh, what a good choice? If you review the psukim, which we're going to do quickly, we don't find much positive from Yehuda. Yehuda, we have two major stories about Yehuda. The first story of Yehuda is the way he deals with the jealousy with his brother. He's the one who is behind the big plot of let's kill the brother, and then, okay, fine, let's just sell our brother. So he's not very nice to his brother. I understand that there's rivalry, there's jealousy, but he's not, I mean, again, if I tell you Naphtali, okay, I've never heard of, we don't have much detail about him. He's the parv one, he's in the middle. Zevulun, Issachar, they're all good guys. But Yehuda, he's the only one we know very negative things about him. This is the first story we have to talk about. He's a leader in the sense, but he's a leader on the bad side. He's pushing all his brothers. Let's sell our brother. Now, the Gemara doesn't mince words when he talks about Yehuda. And I'm going to share with you based on a word that he says. When he says, let's sell our brother, he uses a key word that is very negative and says a lot about his person. I'll quote, Mabetza ki naharog et achinu. When he changes his mind between killing his brother Yosef or selling his brother Yosef, he uses the word mabetza. What gain is there for us? Are we getting something out of it? If you kill the man, he is worth only its meat. And people are not very big fans of human meat, so you're not going to get anything out of him. That's how he's looking at his brother. Sell him. As a slave, he's white. I have nothing, but that's the way it was. A white, good-looking man, strong, from good family. You could make a little fortune with him. Literally, what profit will it be for us if we kill him? The Gemara freezes here and says, what in the world is going through the mind of this human being? Even at the time that he's debating between killing someone and selling him into slavery, the only thing that crosses his mind is, what is better for us? And he doesn't say in the Torah, okay, fine, I have a little bit of rahmanut, a little bit of pity, of mercy on this guy. Let's make him a slave. No, that's not the reason. The reason why he sold him as a slave, because they're going to make some money. All right, that's the resume. We're debating now. Yaakov is choosing who is going to be the king. So he's looking at the resumes of his sons. That's what we know of this person. The Gemara is very strong. The Gemara mentions this pasuk and says, "Botzea berech ni'etz Hashem." Whoever praises a prophet seeker, because there are people like this out there. All they care about is how much money they could make. They don't care if on the way they kill half the world. They don't care. Amazon. He's a Botzea Berech. The biggest, strongest company in the world today. He doesn't care if on the way the thousands and millions of people lose their jobs because the retail business is going down the drain. Same Midah, Yehuda. He will be remembered the richest man in the world who crushed everyone on his way. But that's a different shiur. Maybe one day we'll do that. Whoever praises the prophet seeker blasphemes Hashem. Blasphemy is a strong word. He's cursing God. Because the purpose of the world is not about you. How much money could you make? And on the way you don't care? So that's all you cared about, Yehuda? How much money you could make? That's why you didn't kill him? What a low way of looking at life. That's the first information on the CV of Yehuda. Second information on the CV of Yehuda. He has one time a seduction encounter with Tamar, whom he believes is a harlot. There isn't a back and forth in his mind. Should I or shouldn't I? I'm going on Monday, and then I'm thinking maybe it's not a good idea. Let me try to control myself for one day. I'll come back tomorrow. There's no back and forth. There's no ping pong game between Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Tov. Yehuda sees the harlot, he just goes for it. That's the information we have. A weak man. He can't control his urges. That's Yehuda. And the Torah again is clear. The Torah is not lying. The Torah doesn't try to hide and camouflage certain things, although it is an episode that is difficult to understand. I won't hide that from you, because the rest of the story is really just very weird. That she gets pregnant and she was the daughter-in-law, you know the story. But the Torah does not hide anything. And that's the kind of person we're dealing with. That's just a fact. These are simple words. So that's the second information we have. This guy is a profit seeker, willing to sell his brother for money. And second, he has zero control of himself when it comes to his sexual urge. That's a great candidate for being the Melech Israel, right? I mean, this is, he's going to represent the Klal Israel on the international arena, on the national podium. This is it. And he makes it. He's the one. God says, nah, Yosef, no good. We're gonna keep Yehuda. Isn't it a weird choice? Now go to Yosef. As soon as he's with his brothers face to face, and they're now afraid because of his power, and he reveals himself. He says, Ani Yosef. They say, please don't kill us. He says, why should I kill you? You're my brothers. What a different approach. He doesn't say, what am I going to gain if I kill you? No, you're my brothers. You're my brothers. It's fine. If I'm here for a reason, you had something in mind, it's okay. I'm mochel. First human being who is mochel. He forgives his brothers. And after the death of their father, they come back to him and said, can you please forgive us? Please have mercy on us. He said, didn't I say already that I was mochel to you? Wasn't I clear enough? They say, yeah, but Yaakov was alive when you did that. Now he's dead. He says, I don't know what you're talking about. He's a forgiver. He's a person who is just nice. He's a nice guy. He knows how to lower the head. People who made his life miserable. He didn't have a smooth ride. But he's mochel, he forgives. That's Yosef. Of course, it's different than Yehuda. And on the second point of Yehuda, it's also very different. His approach with the wife of Potiphar. He just works there every day. And he's human too. He sees her. She's seducing him all the time. But he's strong. He doesn't go for it. He doesn't go for that. Why pick Yehuda? Why pick Yehuda when he's the weakest when it comes to everything? Out of all the brothers, Yehuda, that's the one you pick. And he's the king of Israel forever. How do you do that? What a poor choice. When you pick a president, well, we're dealing with some of that right now, but you have to have the choice also between who and who, you know. But without going into politics, when you pick a president, you try to pick the best one. You have a choice between 12 amazing people, except one who is not so great, and that's the one the Torah picks. Oh, Yehuda is going to be the one. Why is that? I would like to offer to you an interpretation that changes a lot the perspective on people and has a lot to do with kids. There's a Gemara that tells us the truth behind the choice of Bnei Israel to be the quote-unquote chosen people. The Gemara says, why was the Torah given to Israel? We know the stories, they're all beautiful, but this is, for me, the Gemara that makes it. Lama nitna Torah Israel, says the Gemara, why was the Torah given to Israel? What would you expect? Why was the Klal Israel in Harvard University? Why? Because they scored pure A's. I mean, that's the way you would think. Who makes it to Yale? Top students. Who makes it to Torah? Lama nitna Torah Israel. Why do you give Torah, the most intellectual thing, for the Klal Israel? Mipene shem azim shebaumot. Literally because they are the most impudent of all people. They have chutzpah, they're low lives, they're not good people. Let me do that outside. Why was the Klal Israel chosen? Because they were the worst of all people. All other societies had some kind of societal norms, some kind of system of law. They were slaves, abused, didn't have any system. And they were chosen to be the chosen nation. Why did you choose them? That's the question of the Gemara. And the Gemara says, well, precisely because they were the worst. What? Because they were the worst? That's why you chose them? What is this Gemara saying? Ladies, this Gemara is something very, very profound. If God wants to prove that the Torah has this specificity and this power to change people from bad to good, who do you choose? The worst. If you're a good trainer and you want to prove your point, you don't take someone who is fit, who is prepared for all kinds of boot camp exercises. You take someone who doesn't fit the description, someone who is not careful, someone who just doesn't make it. And you take that person and say, let me show you what we could do. I have a system that works. And you work on that person and say, here is the result. That's what I could do. That's exactly what God does. So let me show you why my Torah is a system that works. I'm not going to take the best. I'm going to take the worst. Let me show you how you could transform someone from bad to good. And I'm fine with challenges, God says. I'm going to take the worst. That's why I picked the Kal Israel, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know where the gentlemen are, actually. Ladies. Well, when I speak, usually I speak to ladies and gentlemen. So it's part of my personality by now. But ladies, that's why we were chosen. I mean, I don't know if right now I'm hurting your self-esteem of Jew, but that's not me. That's the Gemara saying it. So next time you think before, yeah, we're the chosen nation. Well, let me remind you that you were chosen because you were the worst. Now, we're part of a test. Right now, we're in the middle of a test where at the end of time, God is going to say, look what I did. I took people who didn't have a chance of survival, people who were not the greatest, actually, Azim Shebaumot. They were the most impudent people on earth. That's why I picked them. And what I could do, look at the difference now, where they are and where the rest of the world is. That's called winning a challenge. When you take someone who is not too good and you make him amazing. Now, talking about this for a second, historically, I'm going to share with you a little episode I had with my son, and I'm sure you could connect with that. So I tell my son, I don't like this new game, Fortnite. You ever heard of that? No, of course not. Well, Fortnite, I tell him it's violent, you kill people, it's not good, And the whole drill, I'm sure you all know the shiur. But my son is not so quick in accepting what I say, always. Of course, you don't have this problem, but... and he tells me, but even respectfully, but he's very smart, and he tells me, but it's fake blood. I mean, you understand, this is all fake. He says, but the proof is that in the game, the blood is blue. It's not red. Oh, very interesting. But it's still violent. I mean, you're killing. It's true that it's not true. I understand that, but you form corporations and armies, and you have your friends, and you talk. It's like a whole thing. I never played it, but I see sometimes a little bit. And they get into it. I'm like, thank God we limit the times, etc. But still, I don't like it. I prefer what I used to play, car games, Pac-Man, things like this. You don't hurt that. I mean, you hurt the what you ate. What was it? It was cherries? I don't know. It was round. Who knows what it was? I thought it was gums. I think it was gumballs. Whatever. You can imagine whatever you want to eat, and that's what you eat. Yeah? It's very good. It's good for imagination. But these kids, whatever, they have... I'm like, it's too violent. I don't like it. He tells me, well, I don't like learning Nach. Because in Navi, in the class that we have in school, they describe real blood, and tragedy, history, it tells me. And you tell me what's real blood and what's not real blood. Ladies, I don't know if you had that one in your house. Yes, he is. And I'm put on the spot, and I'm like, whoa, I was not expecting that. He tells me, I don't love that Navi class. It doesn't talk to me. I don't feel that that's who we are. You always say shalom, we're good people. I don't see that. Now, he's not the rebellious teenager yet. He's young, and hopefully we never get there. But it is what it is. And that question is an amazing question. So that was real. That was blood, and I'm not proud of it. When you need God's hand to come right on the right moment, and that's what happened. Thank you, Hashem, for saving my life at this moment. And I told him, but that's exactly what we're trying to do. We were not perfect. We made tons of mistakes. We were chosen because we were not good. And we're precisely trying to do the opposite. When you read Jewish history, and sometimes it is not pretty. The whole Nach, the whole Navi, all the prophets is the same story. Bloodshed, idol worshipping, and the poor prophet who is trying to make it to the polls. He never has popularity more than 5% in a national poll. They always tell them to shush, get out of here. It's just a back and forth story of people who are not educated, who make fun of their leaders back and forth throughout Jewish history. It's just almost annoying to read that. Sorry, but that's just the way it is. Read Jewish history, you go nuts. How much can they go back and forth? They never listen to people who tell them what to do. And that side apparently was still good at that. We don't always listen. And that's what I told my son. I said, but the difference is that we're trying to get better. Let's not try to hide the truth. We were not good. The Gemara says it. Azim Sheva Umat. That's why I picked you. Not because you were greater, because you were lower. And you know what? There are some things there that are really bad. When between brothers they kill each other, Nov Yira Kohanim, and so many examples in the Nach that were not taught by Hashem, that were not commanded by the prophet. What do you do with that? It is what it is. It's real blood, but that's what we're trying to correct. And that's the challenge we're trying to do. And I could say today, in 2018, almost 2019, the results are pretty good. We're not doing that bad. We're doing good. But it was a work, it was a challenge. It was taking someone who was not too good and transform him and her and them into something amazing. And we're still working on it. And that's exactly what Yaakov is doing. Yaakov says to take a person like Yosef and to tell him, you be the king, nobody in the audience would connect with that person. Because anytime you would read a story about Yosef, and he was strong, and for 2 years he didn't look at her, and you say, okay, I mean, that was Yosef, you know. He was obviously a totally different kind of person. He excelled his whole life. He was charming. He was straight, a straight track, like a train. That's not me. I have nothing to learn from this person. Oh, says God, you know what? Although you would want to have the best guy in the leadership, in the Malchut, that's not my choice. My choice is going to be someone who shows the world how he went from not being good to being amazing. Because at the end of the test, when Yehuda is modeh and he says, Tzadka mimeni, she was right, I was wrong. That, being able to say, I went through all of this and I became a great guy, that's the kind of leader you want. Someone you could identify with. I'll tell you a short story. There was a rabbi who was invited to talk to drug addicts. He was invited in a rehab center in California. And he starts speaking his speech, and within 30 seconds, there's one guy who raises the hand. The rabbi says, I just started speaking, would you give me a chance? You already have a question? He says, yes, sir, I have a question. And no, you cannot continue the speech until you answer that question. And by the way, I'm representing every person sitting here. Oh, it never happened to me, but I don't know what I would do in this case. Well, you don't have much of a choice. You have to give him to speak his question. And he says his question, he says to the rabbi, Rabbi, just a question before you start. Were you once a drug addict? That you want to talk to us? And the rabbi says, no, I never had addiction, thank God. He said, Rabbi, we have nothing to listen to you for. Would you please step down and have a nice day? He said, but Rabbi, if you did not go through what we went through, you have nothing to tell us. And they all left. And that rabbi says the story and he says, I learned my lesson. They're 100% right. If you don't know what these people went through, there's nothing you could teach them. Nothing. And that's exactly the same thing. When you have a king who is a perfect guy, he has nothing to teach us. Not in leadership, not in conduct, not in anything. The only king who could teach us something is the king who went through hell. A guy exactly the worst you would imagine. Out of the 12 people, Yaakov is looking for the best, and God is looking for the worst. The worst who was able to control himself and to become great. That's the kind of guy I want. Someone that anybody could connect with and says, oh, Yehuda, hey, he went through it. He had it all. He was a bad guy. He was a thug. He didn't kill his brother because he didn't make money out of it. I mean, do we understand who we're talking about? You almost want to have him be portrayed like the worst guy possible. Because that's exactly right. That's the one we want. When a guy like this could make it to be a tzaddik, oh, that's the kind of person I want. And that's why I think, you'll excuse me for that, but biographies of Gedolim are very cute, they're very nice, but there's zero inspiring. I'm sorry. I don't mind reading them. I love reading them. But when I close the book, I'm like, great, this was a great man. Nothing to do with me. When you read Rav Moshe Feinstein, finished Seder Nezikin in Shas when he was 9 years old. Perfect. Chazak u'baruch, zichrono livracha. There's nothing I could learn from that because at 9, that's not what I was doing. And not at 13, and not at 17 either. I want a biography, but it doesn't sell. That's the problem in these days. It only sells if you make it perfect, which is, by the way, inspired by the other religions. Because they make their leaders into divinities. Why? Because they can't take it that a human being went through the wrong to become good. He becomes godly. And that's why they turn them into gods. Because he has to be perfect. So you know why? So that I could do whatever I want. Don't come and tell me Jesus didn't do that. You know why? Well, he was Jesus. He was perfect. I'm not that. Guess what? By us, it's exactly the opposite. The Torah does not mince their words when it comes to attack certain conducts of anyone. Be it Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Yehuda, Yosef, Moshe even. We're going to discuss his mistakes. Mistakes of Moshe? Why would you do that? You know why? So you could read the book and say, oh, he also made mistakes. I could read his story and get some kind of inspiration for me. But if the whole book is focused on he was learning Torah from the age of 2 to the age of 115, and he never moved from the book, well, good for him. But I have nothing to learn from that. Nothing, because I'm not that. I want to read the story of someone who told me he was a troublemaker. He didn't make it in school. He was expelled from one school to the other, and look what he became. Oh, thank you. Someone like me. I'm still in the middle of the road, but I have chance. That's Yehuda. Don't put me or Yosef in leadership because that's not going to work. Nobody will relate with a person like this. He was perfect. Good for him. That's not me. We need leaders to be like us. We need to see a leader who was successful and say, wow, if he did it, he was worse than me. Then for sure I have a chance. And that's why the Torah says, look at the challenge. I'm going to take someone who is not good, and I'm going to turn him into good, so you could relate with him. That's Yehuda. That's us. Klal Yisrael. We're not good. Nah. We became good, but we're not always good. And that's the work of the Torah. And that's the proposition of the Torah. That's who you want. So now you may understand my little introduction. If your kids are perfect, you have nothing to learn from here. God bless them. They're amazing. That's it. If they're not, then you got something amazing in your hands. You got an opportunity to make a Yehuda into the king of Israel. That's the chance you have right now. If he's good, he's good, regardless of us. But if they're not so good, if they're not polished yet, that's a perfect opportunity to take and change it into good. And that was always the case of the strongest leaders. Moshe also. There's a big Midrash in Tanchuma that talks about Moshe. Moshe, you think he was great? Where would he get his greatness? Inside the palace? Now tell me where he got his Jewish education, because I'm still looking for it. He worked on himself. He started from the lowest. I'll tell you a Midrash that is unbelievable. I'm sure you know the Midrash, but allow me to tell you the explanation of the Midrash. It is no wonder that Yehuda is the son of Leah, and that Yosef is the son of Rachel. Rachel is the perfect girl. When Yaakov sees her, falls in love immediately with her, not only with her physique, but everything else. She's charming, she's good. She passes this to Yosef. Yosef is the perfect kid. He makes it all along. Yehuda is similar to Leah. Leah is not a bad person. Leah had struggles. Leah comes from the word struggle, tired. She had difficulties, but she made it through difficulties. No wonder the Klal Yisrael is going to identify more with Leah than with Rachel. Rachel's life is short. She can't survive. That's not doing any good. Leah made it. Rachel was the preferred wife, but she's not buried with her husband. Her husband is buried with Leah. Leah survived. She was the real mother of the Klal Yisrael because she got Levim, she got the Torah from Issachar, she got the Malchut for Yehuda. What happened to Rachel and her two children, Yosef and Binyamin? Nothing. I mean, they had something historic, but it's not a big deal. Today, Yehuda is the king. Melech HaMashiach will be from that. The Kohanim are still around. The Torah from Yehuda, from Issachar. You have a lot from Leah. She made it. Historically, she won. Who is this Leah? Let me tell you a big secret. Now, that would be a big class about this, but just quickly. There's a Midrash that tells us that the morning that Yaakov wakes up after his first wedding, and he sees next to him, surprise, V'ine baboker, v'ine Leah. Leah, ah! That's not what I had in mind. This is a terrible story, by the way. You laugh, but it's really not funny. I mean, the poor Yaakov. He sees Leah. The Midrash tells us there's a whole conversation there. And Yaakov turns to Leah and says, why did you do this? You and your father, Ramaim, you're crooked. How could you do this to me? Because Leah was part of it. I mean, we talk about Lavan. What about her? She walked down the chuppah, eh? Nobody else. She went into bed. She didn't say, Yaakov, by the way, I'm not Rachel. Come on. No one accuses her. Well, he does. What happened to you and your dad? Both Ramaim. And she answers back something surprising. She says, well, you want us to tell you who our mentor was? Let me tell you something, sir. We heard a story in Canaan, somewhere there down Palestine, Israel, who knows where. There was an old man, blind, he couldn't see anything. And he wanted to give a blessing to one of his sons. And then, the younger one came instead of the old one, saying, I am Anochi Esav Bechorecha. I am Esav, your firstborn. That guy is our mentor. Does it ring a bell? And the Midrash ends there. This is a great couple energy, very good beginning for Shalom Bayit. First night, pretty interesting. In the morning, the conversation is flawless. It's really good. The chemistry is strong. The bond is amazing. So it's payback time? Think about what Leah is saying. You would say, well, she's still crooked. I mean, okay, fine, I made a mistake. It's Yaakov said, okay, I did a mistake. That's why you stabbed me on the back? That's why you put something on the head so I don't see who you are? Payback time? Well, who are you, God? So that's why you switched with your sister to teach me a lesson? What kind of answer is that? That's the Midrash, complicated Midrash to understand. I think the Pshat in the Midrash is the following. Before that, the Chachamim tell us Yaakov and Rachel were meant for one another. Everyone used to say, that's what they say, Yaakov le Rachel, Esav le Leah. Esav was going to marry Leah, and Yaakov was going to marry Rachel. Who is everyone says? The Yachnes of the city? Who cares what people say? And Leah was crying. She was not happy with that choice. Who are the people? They were designed, they were designated for one another from Shamayim. You know why? Because Yaakov is the perfect, Ishtam Yoshevu Alim. The perfect match for a perfect person is a perfect person. So Rachel is the perfect girl. Yaakov is the perfect boy. Match from heaven. Esav and Leah were the same kind of soul. They both had difficulties. They struggled with life. The Chacham tell us, if Esav would have turned around to be a tzaddik, he would have been the real leader of the Klal Yisrael. And that's why Yitzchak was insisting that Esav should get the beracha, because he really felt that Esav was the one who could teach the people. He struggled with life, had to conquer it, had to become a good person. And Leah had the same kind of life. She was tired, she had the difficult life, she had struggle. She was not the perfect girl, but she made it. And when she saw that Esav did not make it, but she did make it, she was worried. I cannot marry a guy who had difficulties but did not succeed. Because you have the one who does not make it, and you have the one who does make it. Her side of Israel, of being the mother of the Klal Yisrael, who could show how to deal with struggle, she was going to do it alone. Because Esav is not going to be the father of the Klal Yisrael, which means that originally you were going to have two fathers of the Klal Yisrael. Yaakov for the perfect people, or that side of the Klal Yisrael, and Esav for the Baalei Tshuva, the ones who had difficulties and come back. But Esav didn't make it, so now Leah is alone. But Leah is telling Yaakov, the moment you understood that, the minute your mother understood that, and that's the depth of the story, when your mother says, go and get the berachot, because Esav is not making it. And maybe Yitzchak was wrong when he thought Esav still has a chance. Rivka said, no, he doesn't have a chance anymore. Yaakov, I appoint you officially to take the t-shirt of the perfect guy and the not perfect guy to be the only Av of the Klal Yisrael. To be the only head of the Klal Yisrael. Yaakov now is going to be both. Yaakov and Esav. He's going to take care of the people who are perfect, and he's going to take care of the people who are not perfect. He will be the sole and only head of the Klal Yisrael. That's what Rivka says. You go get the berachot. And Yaakov understands that now his responsibility is duplicated. It's doubled. And he goes to his father and he does not lie when he says, Anochi Esav bechorecha. I am now also Esav. I am now taking officially the position of Esav and his involvement in the Klal Yisrael. And Leah tells him, the moment you did that, you agreed to marry me. Because I was destined to do that job with my husband, that we're going to show the Klal Yisrael how to deal with struggle and difficulties and to triumph. And you took that responsibility on yourself. You signed the ketubah at that moment. I am going to marry Leah. That's what she means when she tells him, she's not payback time. She's telling him, you, when you took the berachot, you took the t-shirt of Esav, and now you have to marry me. Because together we're going to show the Klal Yisrael that side. And she triumphed. And she was right. And Rachel, she was who she was. But the real Klal Yisrael comes from Leah. Because how to deal with struggle is the real lesson. And Yehuda comes from that, and the Torah comes from that, and the Leviim come from that, and the Kohanim come from that. Because struggle is what we all go through. And that's why Yaakov and Leah together, they're buried together, they teach the Klal Yisrael this lesson. So they succeeded in that. And that's how you do it. Struggle is an opportunity. It's not a failure. It's a great opportunity to change. That's the story of the whole Klal Yisrael. Now you understand Leah's shidduch. You understand Yehuda being appointed to be the king. David HaMelech being appointed to be the king. We understand the whole story makes sense. Why we were chosen as a nation. We're the worst. And now we change this around. It's an opportunity. It's a different way of thinking. Out of the box thinking. That's what kids who have struggled, that's what they are. An opportunity. a diamond to be polished. The much bigger, they cover much more ground. And this, the Rambam says it when he says, Makom sheba tshuva omdim en tzadikim gemorim yechulim la'amod, where the Baalei Tshuva are, the tzadikim cannot. Why? Because they cover more ground, he says. Because kavshu et yitzram, they cover more ground. The tzadik is in his bubble. It's a much easier kid. It's not worth so much. What is worth is the one who made the effort to go from point A to point B. With all the struggles on the road, that's how you connect to the Klal Yisrael. And someone who tells you doesn't have struggles is a liar. It's not true. Different struggles. That's okay. I'll just conclude with a story. Can I conclude with a story, Esti? You sure? This is, of course, a very broad subject, but I just want to open your mind in one way. It's not to be taken literally. It is a literal story, though. It happened to me, was a couple years ago. I was invited to go to Montreal for a dinner, for dedication of a shul, whatever. I go there, and at the end of the dinner, it's maybe 11 p.m., the person who invited me tells me, you don't mind riding in the car with someone else? They had a chauffeur and a guy with me. I said, no problem. He tells me we're going to the same hotel. I said, perfect, no problem. I'll go with that guy. This guy was a goy, invited to the dedication. And he's a business partner of this person. I forgot his name. But he's the number one dealer of luxury cars in the United States. You can imagine the kind of person he is. Extremely successful businessman, based in Chicago. He has 1,200 employees. I mean, really, very, very big guy. Goy, very Christian, very respectful. And we have a ride from the hall to the hotel. That day, there's a traffic, it's 11 p.m. The traffic to go to downtown Montreal. And the GPS shows 45 minutes. I mean, it's going to be a nice ride. I'm not usually very nice like this with people. I don't know. I'm just saying it's just my nature. I'm not the kind of guy who's going to start schmoozing with him the whole 45 minutes. But he was. I thought it was going to be a problem. He was actually very, very nice. And he starts telling me about his life. At the beginning, I was like, I don't really care much about your life, but it's okay. Fine. So we start talking, and he starts telling me, I want to tell you how I succeeded in my business. He starts being interested. Maybe I could get a tip or two, you know. And he tells me that his father, I'll just tell you half the story because it's long. It's 45 minutes. It was a whole ride. You know. But the first story that he told me, my father always used to tell us a story. He said he himself was not financially super successful. It was okay, whatever, but he told us a story all the time. It's a true story that he knows the person. Maybe you heard the story, but he knows the person, the Baal Maaseh. There was once a homeless in downtown Chicago. He was looking for a job. He wanted to get better. Some homelesses, they just accept their solution, whatever, without looking for a solution to their situation. But he wanted to get better, and he was looking for a job. And he saw in a business office building, he saw in the bar, it said, looking to hire. This is a story happened in the 50s. And he's coming close, he knocks on the door, he says, I would like to work here, and they tell him, okay, fine, I mean, whatever, you don't look exactly like the kind of person we're looking for, but fine. Do you know how to type? No. Do you know how to read? No. Do you know how to write? No. Do you know how to count? No. Okay, you know what? I don't think this is going to work. This is a CPA office. If you don't know how to write, you don't know how to read, and you don't know how to count, that's not the best place for you. He says, thank you very much. The lady really felt bad. The lady in the front, she said, let me try to get a couple of dollars from the back. She goes to the back, she talks to the people. Each one gives $1, $2, whatever. She comes up, she gives him $20. He comes out with $20. He walks down the street, and he sees a person, beautiful apples, selling apples. How much are the apples? $1 a piece. He buys 2 apples. And he's thinking, should I eat one? I'm really hungry. Let me try to do something with this. Instead of eating it, I'm going to do something. He walks to the residential area, closest one, and he puts a sign, $2. Beautiful, gorgeous fruit, $2. Somebody passes by and buys an apple. Another person, okay, beautiful apple, $2, pays for it. He goes back to the first guy, says, oh, these apples are miracle apples. He buys a couple more apples, goes back to the residential area, understood the system. Oh, in downtown it's cheaper because it's not residential. I'm going to go to the residential area, I'm going to start selling. And that's what he started doing, from one apple to two apples to a whole cart of apples, to buying more fruit, to having a stand, to opening a small store, to opening a bigger store, to opening a supermarket, to opening a chain of supermarkets. And this guy, in the 60s, he sells his chain of supermarkets to a Chinese corporation for $100 million. Obviously, by then, he's not homeless anymore. And he sells it for $100 million, and the father of this guy says, I'm present at the moment that they're going to make the signature. They give him the paper, and he puts a cross. He doesn't know how to write. And the Chinese guy says, is this a joke? I mean, his lawyer is there, the lawyers are present, etc. He said, no, I don't know how to write. What's your problem? You buying my stores, you're buying my hand. Like, what do you want? And they ask him about it, and he says his story, and he concludes, and he says, if I knew how to write, I would have still been working in the office building for $10 an hour. Thanks to the fact that I don't know how to write, I was able to do this, and today put a cross for a $100 million transaction. And he told me, my father always taught us this, to say, everything is good and bad. Of course, having education and being in track, having A's is very nice. But at the end of the day, it puts you in a path, and you don't look outside of that path. He says, take, for example, a doctor. The doctor is going to look for medicine. But a doctor, when he sees a car for sale in the street, he's not going to look at it. That's not his field of expertise. He's not even going to look there. My father taught us, don't put that mentality in your brain. Whatever you do, do it. But keep your eyes and your ears open always. Everything could be an opportunity. And he says, and that's why I started with the car business. I was doing something else totally. And by the way, I buy buildings and I buy this. I buy everything. My portfolio is very, very ample. Because I don't focus on what I know. I focus also on what I don't know. And I listen to everything to be an opportunity. And he said, having a problem sometimes is actually a great thing. Because when you're not focused in something, then you're open to everything. A struggle is not a problem. A struggle is an opportunity. That's how the Torah viewed it. That's how this guy from Chicago views it. And that's how successful people see it. Because if you're only in the system, then you only see the system. Hence, struggle is a bracha. It's the best way how to strengthen oneself, to never think and wish that a kid who would be perfect would be better. That's false, that's wrong, and it's the wrong way of looking at it. The Torah is working precisely against this. We should look at struggle for an opportunity for triumph. Thank you very much.